They told her she was defective. They branded her for death. Now she's the only one who can break the machine. Half Nigerian, half Korean. All dangerous. But in a world where love is weakness and trust is suicide, who do you run to when your existence is a weapon? Keep reading, because when Amara runs, the world starts breaking. The sky was nothing but smoke. No stars. No moon. Just the choking breath of a world that had stopped caring. Underneath the scorched crust of Zone 7, what was once Eastern Korea, an old subway system twisted like a forgotten vein. Broken rails, flickering emergency lights, and piles of rusted junk stretched for miles beneath the earth. It was a graveyard. And Amara Ji-hwan was dying inside it. She staggered through the tunnels, one arm wrapped around her ribs, the other dragging a stolen cloth bag. Her lips were cracked, her curls matted with dried blood, and her skin burned from whatever the Corps had injected into her veins days ago. She was alone, again. The transport she escaped from had been carrying 30 other defectives, failed subjects. Most of them were already unconscious from the sedatives. The Corps didn't even use chains anymore. If they wanted you dead, you died. But not her. Amara jumped. Broken ankle, dislocated shoulder, cracked ribs. She should have died. Instead, she crawled into the ruins and didn't stop crawling. Her arm bore a fading brand. Project Asha, failed subject 093. Do not recycle. That stamp alone was a death sentence, and a prize. The Corps had been hunting her ever since. She collapsed near an abandoned service room, barely conscious. Her bag tumbled from her hand. A red scarf slid from the side pocket. Her mother's scarf. As her vision blurred and faded, she saw a figure. Tall, armed, shadowed by flickering lights. His voice was the last thing she heard before blacking out. Yuto, get her off the rail, she's marked. When she woke, her shoulder was reset and her ribs were wrapped. She was lying on a stiff cot inside a metal bunker, lit by a dying halogen bulb. Her body felt like it had been dragged across the spine of the earth, and maybe it had. Across the room, a man sat at a table with a half-assembled rifle, clean-cut, sharp-eyed, and built like someone who'd seen too many winters. His black hair was pushed back with grease and dust, and his expression was unreadable. "You're awake," he said. His voice was flat, controlled. Where am I?" Amara croaked. "Underground resistance sector. Zone 7. He didn't move. "You're lucky we found you before a drone did." She tried to sit up but winced. "I'm not a threat," she said quickly. "I'm not Corps. I'm not even—" He finally looked at her. "You're marked as a failed subject. That makes you valuable, or dangerous. Possibly both." He stood and walked to the door. "Ji-hwan," he said without turning. "My name." Then he was gone. The others came later. First was Yuto, who introduced himself with a crooked smile and a limp. "Don't mind Ji-hwan," he said. "Man's got the emotional range of a cactus, but he didn't let you die. That's something." Yuto was twitchy and quick with jokes. But there was something broken under the surface. Something that showed in the way he flinched every time the hallway lights flickered. Next came Suri, a medic with metal plating embedded in her scalp and no patience for strangers. "She shouldn't be here," Suri snapped. "You know what that tag on her arm means. The Corps trades whole weapon crates for her kind." "I didn't ask to be born a glitch," Amara muttered. Suri stared her down. "Neither did we, yet we bleed trying to stay alive, while you show up glowing with failure codes." Only Kemi offered a hand. Bright red hair. Energetic voice. Too kind for a world like this. "I like your face," Kemi said, plopping next to her. "You look like someone who knows how to fight. And maybe cry. That's rare." Amara didn't smile. Kemi leaned closer. "You're not alone anymore. Even if it feels like it." The next few days were survival. Amara kept her head low. She helped clean gear, reorganize supplies, and patch broken circuits. She learned that the Corps had started launching more drone sweeps in this zone, targeting anyone with an anomalous score. Anyone too smart, too strong, too resistant. She also learned that Ji-hwan used to work for the Corps, a robotics engineer, one of the best, until they took his brother. He trusted them, Yuto told her during guard duty one night. Thought working inside would protect his family. He was wrong. Amara didn't say it aloud, but she knew the feeling. Her own father, a brilliant Corps architect, had disappeared after helping smuggle out human override code. Her Nigerian mother, a diplomat turned rebel, died trying to expose Project Asha to the world. Amara was the last loose thread in their legacy, and the Corps wanted her cut. One night, she overheard voices in the storage room. Suri. She's worth enough to get us 2 months of medicine and 4 ration cases. Yuto. We can't just hand her over. Suri. We don't even know what she is. And you saw the patrols increase. She's drawing them. A pause. Yuto. You know Ji-hwan won't allow it. Suri. Then we do it behind his back. Amara's heart went cold. She didn't wait to be betrayed. That night she ran, took her scarf, a knife, and nothing else. The surface above was worse than she remembered. Ash choked the skies. The wind sliced like glass. The dead city of Zone 7 loomed in shadows. She kept moving. No plan, just the instinct to survive. Until the cold brought her down. She collapsed behind a cracked concrete pillar, barely breathing. But before the dark took her, bootsteps, crunching, drawing closer. She reached for her knife, trembling, then a voice she recognized. Ji-hwan, you didn't get far, he said. Amara's chest heaved. They were going to trade me. I know. Silence hung between them. Why are you here? She asked. Why did you follow me? Ji-hwan looked down at her with a storm in his eyes. Because if they trade you, the Corps gets what it wants. Again. And I'm done letting that happen. He reached down and offered his hand. Come with me. This time, you don't run alone. They didn't return to the main resistance bunker. Instead, Ji-hwan led her down into the old sewer lines, through narrow shafts sealed long ago. He knew every rusted bolt, every shortcut, every hidden door. They walked in silence for hours until they reached an ancient vault beneath the surface. A forgotten relic of the old world. This used to be a backup data relay center for the Corps' satellite labs, Ji-hwan explained, punching in a code on a shattered panel. Before they built the towers. It's off-grid, untraceable, which means we can breathe here. The door creaked open. Inside, the space was dusty but intact. Old terminals, busted AI drones, servers blinking weakly in the dark. He lit a lamp and motioned for her to sit. Why here? She asked. Because I don't know who I trust anymore, and I don't think you do either. He powered up a monitor. Static flickered, then a boot sequence. Code 17A. Access. Denied. Ji-hwan entered a new key. The screen changed. Images flashed. Files, logs, diagrams. Her name, her face. Project Asha. Amara gasped. You said you didn't work on this, she whispered. I didn't, but I knew people who did. My brother, Ji-hwan's throat tightened. He found these logs while working on surveillance nodes. He knew something was wrong. That Project Asha wasn't just another bioenhancement test. It was a neural key. A living encryption system. He turned to her. The Corps didn't mark you as failed because you were weak. They marked you because you worked. Your DNA sequence is a half-built cipher. You can break into systems they thought were untouchable. Amara staggered back, gripping the table. You're saying I'm a virus. No. I'm saying you're a weapon. One they can't control. The room spun. Everything made sense now. The injections, the hallucinations, the way Corps drones froze for seconds when they scanned her. They were responding to something inside her. Code embedded in blood. I don't want this, she whispered. I didn't ask for this. I know, Ji-hwan said. But if we use it right, we might be able to shut down the Zone 7 data tower. Take out surveillance, free this entire sector. Amara looked up, tears burning behind her eyes. You think they'll let me do that after what I heard? She asked. Suri wants me gone. Yuto can't be trusted. And Kemi, she trailed off. Something about Kemi hadn't sat right in days. Ji-hwan nodded. We don't go back. Not yet. He pulled up a map. There's a Corps testing lab west of the ruins. It was abandoned mid-construction during the last purge. But it's rumored to house a biological decryption array. The missing half of the cipher. Amara stared. You think my parents built it. I think your father started it. And your mother died trying to get it out. Silence stretched. Then Amara squared her shoulders. Then let's finish what they started. They left the vault just before dawn. Ji-hwan carried the map and 2 rifles. Amara pocketed a data chip with her project files encrypted onto it. They made their way through collapsed highways and rusted military tunnels. By mid-afternoon, they reached the edge of the west sector. What they saw made them freeze. The ruins weren't abandoned. A core patrol unit was stationed at the edge of the lab compound. Drones hovered overhead. And standing at the gate, calm, smiling, with red hair dancing in the wind, was Kemi. Amara's blood turned to ice. Ji-hwan yanked her back behind the wall. "No," she whispered. No, she couldn't have. Kemi was laughing, talking to the commander, handing over something, a data chip, the same kind Amara had stolen. "She set me up," Amara choked. "She must have taken it before I ran. She knew exactly where we were going." Ji-hwan's eyes narrowed. "She's a sleeper." "A what?" "Core uses embedded agents, people raised or programmed from childhood. They live normal lives until activated. Emotional, loyal, dangerous." The words sliced through Amara like razors. Kemi, smiling, laughing, promising safety, telling her, "You're not alone anymore." It had all been part of the trap, and now the core was one step ahead. Ji-hwan turned to her. "We don't have much time. If she gave them your genetic code, they'll start rewriting the firewall systems. Your body won't be the key for long." Amara looked out toward the lab, then back at Ji-hwan, and something inside her shifted. "I'm done running," she said. "Let's take back what they stole." Burnt ozone, clean metal, blood that had dried long ago. Amara crouched behind a half-toppled watchtower beside Ji-hwan. Below them, the ruins of the abandoned core lab stretched across the cracked concrete plain. Ghostly white corridors jutted from the earth like broken teeth. Lights flickered where no power should have existed. And at the perimeter gate stood Kemi, smiling, laughing, handing over stolen data to core soldiers. Kemi, the girl who braided her hair, who told her jokes. Amara's hand tightened on the grip of her pistol until her knuckles turned white. "She was one of us," she whispered. "She held me when I had nightmares." Ji-hwan didn't speak. He didn't need to. This was the core's best weapon. Betrayal wrapped in innocence. And it had worked again. They waited until nightfall. Ji-hwan mapped a path through the ruins, carefully marking guard shifts, drone hover patterns, and blind zones in the security grid. He moved like someone who'd built the place once. Amara followed close, breath steady, heart hardening. "I have a plan," Ji-hwan said quietly as they ducked behind a terminal station. "There's a forgotten access port on the northwest quadrant. It connects to the server room through the ventilation shaft. And the decryption array? In the vault chamber, locked behind biometric access." He looked at her. "Only someone with your DNA can open it." Of course. Of course it was her. Her whole life had been leading here. The crawl through the vents was slow, painful and suffocating. Metallic dust stung their lungs. Twice they had to freeze as guard patrols passed beneath. Amara felt her heart beating in her throat, her palm damp where it rested on the pistol's handle. Finally, they reached the server room. It was massive, cold, lit by glowing blue columns that pulsed like veins. Amara stepped down from the shaft and looked around. Screens lined the walls. Monitors showed live surveillance of the city above, streets they used to call home. Resistance hideouts, civilians, children. Every movement tracked, every voice recorded. Ji-hwan moved to a control panel and began typing. "This is it," he said. "The hub that feeds Core's neural grid. We get access to the vault, upload the virus, and Zone 7 surveillance collapses." Amara nodded. But then, a voice. "You came." She spun around, gun raised. Kemi stood at the opposite door, flanked by 2 armed core guards. She wore a red jacket, but her smile wasn't warm anymore. It was clinical. Empty. "Hello, Amara," she said. "Or should I say, Subject 093. Amara didn't move. "I trusted you," she said. "I liked you," Kemi replied. "Still do, actually, but orders are orders." Ji-hwan aimed his weapon at the guards. "Let her go." Kemi tilted her head. "You don't get it, do you? This was never about her. The core already has the code. She's obsolete. But they're offering a deal." "To who?" Amara growled. Kemi's gaze flicked to Ji-hwan. "You," she said softly. "Come back. Work for them again. Full pardon. Clean status. High-tier dome life. No more hiding. No more guilt. All you have to do is walk away." Amara turned to Ji-hwan, throat tightening. "Is this true?" He stared at Kemi, unreadable. "Take the offer," Kemi said. "She's done. She'll be recycled anyway. You? You can rebuild. Ji-hwan lowered his weapon just an inch. No, Amara breathed. Think about your brother, Kemi pushed. Think about the people still out there. You can't save anyone if you're dead. Ji-hwan's hand dropped. For a moment, Amara thought it was over. Then, gunfire. But not from him. Kemi jerked sideways, eyes wide in surprise, blood blooming across her chest. One of her guards collapsed. Ji-hwan tackled the second and slammed his head into the console. Amara blinked, frozen in place. Kemi gasped, falling to her knees. I was trying to spare you. She collapsed, motionless. Amara's stomach turned. She dropped her pistol and looked away. Ji-hwan stood, breath heaving, gun smoking in his hand. I made my choice, he said. They raced down the corridor to the vault room, using the stolen badge from one of the guards to bypass the entrance. Beyond the heavy doors stood a glowing pod-like terminal. It pulsed like a heart. Ji-hwan gestured to the panel. You ready? Amara stepped forward, hands shaking. She pressed her palm to the scanner. It hissed. Then, click, the vault opened. Inside, a metal casing housing a single crystalline chip, smooth, transparent, and flickering with strands of code. Biological encryption mixed with organic DNA. Her DNA. She reached for it and suddenly pain exploded through her skull. Screams, flashbacks, wires in her veins, white lights, the hum of the core labs, a voice in her mind. This body is not yours. It belongs to the system. She collapsed. Ji-hwan caught her. It's the failsafe, he said. They embedded psychic triggers in the code to stop anyone from unlocking it willingly. She gritted her teeth. Then pull it out of me. Do it. He hesitated. If you do this, he whispered, there's no going back. You'll be targeted everywhere. Your body will always be hunted. Amara's eyes burned. Then let them come. Ji-hwan slammed the override. The chip unlocked. The virus inside, the final sequence, rushed into the connected drive. Ji-hwan inserted it into the server. Blue lights surged, data twisted, alarms blared. Warning, system breach detected. Suddenly drone sirens screamed outside. Red lights flashed. The core knew. They were coming. Ji-hwan turned to Amara. Once I upload this, everything changes. We'll lose power. They'll track the signal. We won't make it out. Upload it, she said. He hesitated. Amara? She grabbed his hand. Do it before I stop you myself. He uploaded. The system roared to life, then began to collapse. Cameras across the sector went black. Drones in the sky fell like birds with broken wings. In the core tower miles away, chaos erupted. And deep underground, Ji-hwan and Amara stared at the burning server core as the walls around them began to shake. The world had just changed. The walls were dying. Alarms shrieked. Sparks rained from exposed cables. Flames licked the corners of the vault as the server core overloaded, data systems buckling beneath the viral flood. Ji-hwan grabbed Amara's arm and pulled her toward the exit. We have to go now! Behind them, the lab that once stored humanity's greatest sin collapsed into fire and smoke. With each step they took, the floor trembled. Machines that had never failed before were gasping like dying gods. Amara ran without looking back. Her mind was still spinning from what they'd done, what she had done. All the core's neural grid in Zone 7 gone. Surveillance, drones, facial tracking systems, and resource restrictions all fried. Entire slums and exile camps would be free now. People would be invisible again. For the first time in years, they could breathe. But freedom always comes at a price. They burst out through a side shaft into the open air, just as the lab behind them caved in on itself. Explosions rocked the ground, sending shockwaves through the cracked wasteland. Towers of smoke coiled into the sky. Ji-hwan bent over, coughing into his sleeve. Amara dropped to her knees, choking back tears and blood. But they were alive. Where now? She gasped. He turned west, squinting through the ash storm. There's a safe house 4 miles out, built under an old telecom base. If it's still standing, we regroup there. What if it's not? He gave her a look. Then we keep walking. The wastes were silent. Too silent. They walked until their legs screamed. No drones, no guards, no signal towers. The core's eye had blinked shut. The virus had done its job. And yet Amara couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching. At dusk, they reached the safe house. It was real. A bunker, rusted and battered but intact, tucked beneath an old billboard that once advertised core loyalty points. Ji-hwan pried the hatch open, helped her down, and collapsed beside her inside. Dark. Cold. Safe. For now. For a long time, neither spoke. Then Amara asked, "Do you think it'll last?" Ji-hwan looked at her. "No system ever falls cleanly." She nodded slowly. "But you gave them a crack in the armor. That's how it starts. Silence again." Then he whispered, "You did it." Amara met his eyes. "No," she said. "We did." That night they lay side by side on the concrete floor, wrapped in shared warmth, listening to the world breathe differently. For the first time, Ji-hwan reached for her hand, and she didn't pull away. 2 weeks later, the Zone 7 rebellion had erupted like wildfire. With the surveillance grid down, resistance groups emerged from hiding. Checkpoints were ambushed. Drone towers were sabotaged. People began painting their walls with the phrase, "We are not scores." For the first time in generations, the core was losing ground. But Ji-hwan and Amara didn't return to the others. Not yet. They headed north, following coordinates left in her father's encrypted files. Coordinates that led to a floating archive far above the wastes. An abandoned satellite uplink that had once been part of the core's earliest AI foundation. It held something more than code. It held truth. Amara stood in front of the final sealed door, wind howling across the platform. Ji-hwan patched into the panel beside her. "We're in. Just like your father programmed it." The doors opened with a hiss. Inside were servers wrapped in vines, walls of digital memory carved into crystal, and in the center, a single chair facing a screen that flickered with a name. Park Jin-dae Architect, Father, Traitor. Amara stepped forward. The screen lit up. A holographic recording blinked to life. Her father's face appeared, older than she remembered, more tired. "If you're seeing this, it means you've survived, and I failed you." Her throat tightened. The core was never meant to rule us, it was meant to protect. But they rewrote it. They fed it fear, turned it into a cage. But I built the neural cipher so that one day, someone like you could destroy it. Not with bombs, but with truth. Real freedom isn't handed to people. It's chosen. Risked. Lived. The image flickered. "I'm sorry, Ji-un. For the life you never got. But I see you now. And I know you're stronger than I ever was. End it, and start something new." The message ended. Amara stood there trembling. Ji-hwan reached for her hand again. She gripped his tightly. Then together, they inserted the final key. The archive uploaded its final payload across scattered resistance channels. Truth, proof, internal memos, DNA experiments, neural overrides, all of it. The world would know. The core could no longer lie. 3 days later, as cities began to erupt in coordinated protests, the core retaliated. Missiles targeted key resistance outposts, wiped clean. Zone 8 was turned to ash. Zone 4 collapsed into lockdown. Zone 7? Holding. Barely. But the tide had turned. Amara became a name whispered through the ruins. The living key. Ji-hwan became the ghost engineer who cracked the system he once helped build. They moved constantly, never stayed long, always watching the sky. But they were free. And now, millions were following behind them. In the dead of winter, they returned to the edges of Zone 7 to rescue a captured rebel group. Inside the prison compound, Ji-hwan faced Commander Ri, his old mentor, the man who had ordered his brother's recycling. "You built this world," Ji-hwan said coldly, "and you're watching it fall." Ri aimed a weapon at him. Progress requires sacrifice. So does justice. They fought. Brutal, vicious, personal. Ri was older but trained. Ji-hwan was faster, but tired. Amara joined just in time, firing a warning shot that grazed Ri's shoulder. "I could kill you," she said, weapon steady. "But then I'd be like you." Ri dropped the gun, and for the first time, he looked afraid. They left him alive, to watch everything crumble. A year passed. The core fractured. Some regions collapsed. Others negotiated peace. Small democracies emerged. Not perfect, but human. No more utility scores. No more drone enforcers. No more chains disguised as systems. Amara and Ji-hwan lived on the edge of the reclaimed zone, building homes, growing food, teaching kids how to code with integrity, not control. People still came to find them, refugees, rebels, seekers, sometimes for help, sometimes just to say, thank you. One night, as they stood outside watching the stars return to a sky long forgotten, Amara whispered, "Do you think it's really over?" Ji-hwan wrapped an arm around her waist. "No," he said, "but we've begun again." And that was enough.